This is Ranger Kidwell Ross, editor of WorldSweeper.com and the director of the World Sweeping Association. Today, in the following video, we'll be talking to John Lewis, and John is the Public Works Director for Oregon City, Oregon, and they have implemented what is, as far as we know, the first AI-powered solution that involves a street sweeper to cover a project for a city. And it is with a company called the CityRover. And what the CityRover does is identify, as the sweeper goes along, emerging potholes and other places that need to be repaired on the pavement. So we'll learn more about that, I know, talking with John. And if that sounds interesting enough, probably talk with a representative from CityRover at some point as well in the future. To start with, here's a very brief video from a news channel in Oregon City about CityRover.
Thank you. Well, potholes along the roads can be costly and hazardous for drivers. And now Oregon City has a new high-tech tool to help in their battle to track down and repair the nuisances. Oregon City Public Works is using artificial intelligence to help find and mark the location of potholes in the city. It's called CityRover, and the device sits in a street sweeper and scans the road ahead. If it finds a pothole, it marks the spot and then sends that information to a database for staff to confirm. The city's street operations manager says it helps them find problem areas quickly. Oregon City says it's the only community in the state currently using this technology.
All right, well, with that, let's talk to John Lewis. Well, John, thanks very much for taking time out of your busy day to talk about your CityRover project. And since you know much more about it than I do, I'll just let you launch into what your experience has been.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for that. We're here in Oregon City. We're a suburb of the Portland area, west of Portland. And so anyway, we're a decent sized city. We've got about 36,000 people. We've got 2 sweepers, but we really run, unless it's during our fall pickup season or some kind of a problem that needs to be picked up pretty quick, we typically just run 1 sweeper. And so, yeah, we were introduced to a product called CityRover that I had run into them through an email outreach that they did, and got pretty excited about the product that they were offering and what it said they could do. But I had reservations, and I ended up going to the 2022 PWX conference, which is an APWA conference in where were we at, North Carolina, and they happened to have a booth there too, so got a chance to connect with them a little bit there. And we just proceeded, because the product that they were offering was really pretty simple. It's a program that they load up onto an iPhone camera, and it has technology in it where that camera is just continually scanning whenever it's on and looking at the roadway and the road conditions. And it's got what they call artificial intelligence. I guess that's what it is. I'm not in that realm, but they've got this intelligence where that camera can pick up the conditions of the road and identify potholes. So I thought that's pretty cool. We've got plenty of potholes that we need to address here in Oregon City, and so we're trying to figure out a little better way of inventorying those, figuring out where to send crews made a lot of sense to me. And so what they asked us to do was to load up our GIS street layers into we sent them to them. They loaded them up in their programming and sent us back a iPhone with a mounting bracket. And our thoughts were, well, we could stick it in just a crew leader vehicle or one of the staff's vehicles, but really it's the street sweeper that gets the most coverage of 100% of the city streets, right? We try to cover the city streets 10 or 11 times a year. Depends on how the year goes, but anyway, so that's what we've done. We've mounted this thing in the passenger side window of the street sweeper, and as that street sweeper moves through Oregon City streets, it just picks up data, and that data is uploaded through the phone line to the cloud, and formats it in a way that we can, at a desktop, look at the results of that, and our street supervisor can go through that and either validate, or if the information is duplicate or is not the kind of condition that we necessarily want to have a crew go out and maintain, he can clear that, and we can query it based on the last week, the last month, the last year. It maps it. The report that we see on the screen shows the location with a picture, and it highlights the actual pothole itself. And and there's some provisions for how we package that. We can package that information up into a work order for the crew for a particular corridor or a particular neighborhood. And we find that very useful because one, it gives them a picture. They know exactly what they're looking for. They can see the surrounding area, including street signs or trees. So they know exactly what they're going to be dealing with in the field. And they don't have to scramble around driving up and down the street trying to figure where it's at. They know exactly where they're going. And so that's been super useful for our crews to be able to, in the morning they get their work orders, but now they get a work order that's packed with several pages of these specific locations. And at the end of the day, they bring that back to the supervisor, who can clear that particular problem. And, we don't have to think about it much after that, right? So, and then the other advantage that we're seeing is in Oregon City, we've got several miles of state highway and several county roads inside our city jurisdiction, but they're not our maintenance liability. They are the county or the state. And so, and to be honest with you, we just completed a customer survey across the city, and one of the main points was that they wanted more pavement maintenance and more responsiveness to pavement problems. And so we just happened to notice that we've got a fair amount of liability on state and county facilities, and they're less likely to respond to those like we do. We're kind of pretty quick to get to especially some of the major ones, right, that could create damage. So, we're trying to avoid any kind of insurance claim on those. So we get to ours pretty quick. But the state and the county, they're spread wider and further and have a lot more lane miles to cover. So we've been packaging up what our findings are and sending those to those other agencies with the hopes that they will find them as useful as we do and maybe focus on kind of our needs in our city. So yeah, it's just been a win. We have been demoing the project for CityRover. We just signed an agreement with them to utilize that program for a couple of years. It's basically a subscription service, and so we're excited to continue using it. And we haven't had great weather for even patching our potholes, so we do have a bit of a backlog right now. But as soon as the sun starts shining, we get out there and start plugging potholes.
Well, a couple of things come to mind, and thanks. That's a very good overview of how you're dealing with this. A couple of things come to mind. One is you don't have to have an employee that goes out ahead and takes some spray paint and paints the potholes as they find them and so forth. So that seems like a win right there. That employee can do something else. One of the things that you and I before our interview talked about is that you get some amount of repetition, because as the sweeper leaves the barn, it's going to go over the same roads, some of the same roads over and over again. And so I assume you can just delete those projects, or maybe better get to those first. Well, how do you handle that?
Well, that's handled at the supervisor level or our crew leader. We've got a small department. I want to say there's 7 of them, and there's a supervisor and a crew leader. They both have access to the files, and I think they both kind of go through it and clean out some of that. We also, we can, like I said, we can narrow the search time to a week as opposed to a month, and that kind of helps with that. But yeah, they kind of have to go through them and validate each location. So there is that time involved, but it's good time, I think, because it's not just somebody wasting fuel, wasting, spending. I don't want to call it wasting, because they are doing a useful service if you're driving the road looking for road problems. But but in this case, it's much more efficient in having someone just go through in a pretty quick fashion a list of potholes and just determine, oh, we've already got that one, we're gonna get rid of it. Now, we do want, the other nice thing about the relationship we've formed with CityRover is we've got direct access to their folks that are using us to test this facility. And so just trying to figure out ways and communicate that where the problems are. And we do think that that's an area where maybe they, if there's a way to solve that particular problem, we'd like them to incorporate that. But right now it is an issue, but not a big issue.
Well, I'll also be interested to see if they over time incorporate some other things like, overhanging limbs or signs down or something like that might work. And you'll certainly be in the seat to be able to test that out first if they have it. Is there anything else we should talk about here? It just seems very straightforward and like a win for all. Yeah,
we're getting a lot. We're others are hearing about it as we're getting some media attention, and so others are curious. We did just sign up for a test run for their pavement condition index software. So many agencies collect pavement condition in a variety of ways. We actually use a consultant team that comes through every 3 years and does a kind of a manual evaluation of about 10% of every road segment that we have to establish a pavement condition index. So a rating, if you will, for the street. And it sounds like CityRover has a tool that they're trying to develop to do the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and sign up for that. And they also have a sign inventory that is in development phase as well, so that they can pick up missing signs. If we have a sign, we do have a sign inventory. So if an agency has a sign inventory, the same thing, it will notice if there's a missing sign, if the sign's hanging, or if the sign, maybe needs to be cleaned. And so we haven't dabbled in that yet, but we hope to fairly soon. And what a great use of the sweeper. And I was just talking to our sweeper operator about it. They sent us a new version of the camera that actually not only is picking up the pictures, but it on the site that you would typically look at on your camera, you can actually see what the data is pulling in. Now, she's not necessarily watching that as she's operating the sweeper, but a passenger, for instance, could be looking at that data real time if that were the need. But again, we just think it's a win-win, because this sweepers moving through these streets anyway and collecting the data without even thinking about it. And then, our biggest thing is just kind of managing all that data and not letting that get out of hand, right? So
well, and I'm thinking you could suggest to the county and to the state that they may have an increased liability if they know about these potholes, if they decided not to do anything on them too. But maybe that comes later. I get it. It's a challenge out there. I'm in the Pacific Northwest too, and I know we have the freeze thaw stuff that goes on and so forth, and it's tough on pavement, no question.
Yeah, there is that. Now that you better do something about it, right? Well, we're into that. We've been we like fixing problems. That's kind of what Public Works is about, is fixing community problems. So we want to do as much of that as we can and stay on top of that as much as we can. So yeah, it's been a good addition, and we're going to keep using it.
All right. Well, it seems like it's a very proactive program, and puts your city at the forefront of being proactive too. And that, hopefully that'll look good on your resume when you decide you want to be the public works director for Chicago or something like that. Or
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm pretty happy here in Oregon City.
yeah, I'm pretty happy here north of Seattle, south of Vancouver, BC myself. Well, thanks so very much for this. Is there any questions you wish I had asked or anything like that?
No, I think you did a great job, and I look forward to it.